Welcome to this CurateFx how-to video. In this video, we will look at what is called scenario setting or defining your business scenario. So I'm starting on my main page with my favorite projects showing. I'm going to start by showing you a new project that's basically empty, and then I'll show you a project that's got lots of content in it so that you can see how it comes together. So when you go into your new project, this is pretty close to your default view. I've made couple of small changes, like I've added the overall canvas, business canvas into the scenario setting area, and I've taken it out of the scenario context area. But this video is going to focus on scenario setting, and I wanted this to be part of what we're talking about here, so I moved it up. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here with scenario setting. The place that you always have to start in CurateFx is with stakeholders. They set up your vocabulary for all of the parties that you're talking about throughout the rest of your business scenario. So I've put one in, CSP, but just by a click of a button, we can add another stakeholder. Maybe it's a city or a university, whatever it is, and you will say, are they in a role that I've already defined, which is the integrator role, or are they a different role, which would be the end user perhaps? So you go through here adding your stakeholders, stakeholder 3, stakeholder 4, etc., and you say what their roles are, you add roles where needed, you describe them, all simply by filling all of this in. So think about everybody who will touch your business scenario. And it's okay to have a very, very long list of stakeholders here that maybe you don't do a lot with later on in some of your modules, but good to do this brain dump so that you're setting up your vocabulary for who all of your parties are going to be that are part of your ecosystem. So that's a way to very quickly get going. There is also the capability to add a link to any one of these. If, say, you've got a lot of information on a particular city and you want to add that, you can just click on this. You get to put in the link title and the link URL and save it. So anywhere that you want to refer out to something external, you can always do that by adding it with a link. Of course, you can always delete a stakeholder if you've got duplicates, changed your mind, etc. You can always do that as well. Okay, so once you get your stakeholders defined, then you go into your modules where you're defining your business scenario or doing your scenario setting. So first thing in the predefined view here is creating your drivers. So what are the business drivers for each of your stakeholders? You've got suggestions here for the types of drivers. Is it economic drivers? Is it KPIs? Is it market drivers? Is it social drivers, different trends? I personally like to think of this as some of the external factors is a way to get started. So is population growing in an area? Are you going for more younger people and there's a large segment of young population for the service that you're trying to produce? Trying to look at kind of the things that are driving you to make these business decisions. So it's basically type it in, new driver, you describe the driver, you say what type it is, it's a market driver, and then you say of your stakeholders that you've already defined who it applies to, and you can pick as many as you need. The list will come off the pull down list and drop up into the stakeholders row. And once again, simply click to add a new driver, and here you've got a new one waiting for you, right? I've got the one I created, you've got a new one that you fill in. So you keep doing that until you've got all your drivers defined. Very simple. And then overall value, this is about value creation. So for each of the stakeholders, what is the value that they will get? If you are looking at the CSP aspect, maybe it's new markets, and this is the CSP, and it's about getting to digital services in new verticals. For example, you can keep adding these values. You can pick a different stakeholder. What would be the value for the city, better experience for citizens, etc. There's probably some financial ones, increase profitability. So all of your value drivers, you just add them in, lots of description, etc. Again, you can add links to anything. add links to anything, wherever you want to add more information. So you're really stepping through brain dumping. What is this all about, my new project? It's got stakeholders, it's got business drivers, it's got value statements. Another area we want to look at is problem statements. So why are these people interested in this possible ecosystem as a potential new line of business? So here again, you've got your stakeholders. So as a CSP, I need to enter this line of business so that I can make more money, improve profitability, etc. To do this, I need to enter new lines of business or whatever the driving factors are, and I know I'm successful when, and we encourage you to put in ways to measure success here. So once again, like all of the other tools, you enter all of this in. You can add or delete statements to each of the rows, so you can have multiple need statements, you can have multiple so that I can statements, and then of course you can have more than one of these problem statements. Again, pick your stakeholder. You can have as many from any of the stakeholders as you want. So once again, it's a very structured way to drop your information about your stakeholders, problem statements into point and click, easy to type, easy to duplicate, etc. type of an environment. So you've really got a lot of information now about your business scenario in these areas. And the last way that we give you that you can enter information about your business scenario is a business canvas. This is the standard Osterwalder business canvas that we've used in TM Forum for quite a long time. It's licensed from Osterwalder. And we have created a way to make it interactive here. So again, it's typing in new items, just point and click to enter your new items. A couple of neat things about this are that you can color code based on your customer segments. So if you've got segment 1 and then you've got segment 2, you can apply a color code to these segments, make segment 1 your blue segment, make segment 2 your green segment, and now whenever you enter anything in here, if you want to color code it to match a particular segment, that this is a segment 1 item, you can do that. So your customer segments here are your master view of your color coding, and then you can color code anything in here to match those customer segment color codes, and then you can filter by those color codes. So I've removed the green one, so that went away and you're only seeing the blue, etc. So again, easy to enter, dynamic capabilities. It's got all of the usual things we've been talking about, information to get more details. It's got the ability to delete an item, edit an item, add a link to an item. Okay, that's the overview of the empty one. Pretty empty. Let's go back to our main project page, our main CurateFx homepage. Let's look at one that's more filled in. In this one, we have changed titles. We've rearranged things a bit, so it looks quite a bit different, but you'll see the basics are all in place. The stakeholders, value statements, business drivers, the problem statements, which we've added a subtitle of user stories to, and the business model canvas are all here. And we've added something else called the Smart City Funding Model, which I won't get into in too much detail here. But let me show you now how this looks when you get a long list, right? You've got a lot of descriptions, stakeholders, roles, etc. in place, so your vocabulary gets big as you go through these value statements. And you've got stakeholders that are being used and applied to each of the value statements, and you get a long list when you add a new value statement of all of the stakeholders that you can choose from. So here we've got quite a few value statements going, but I would say there's probably room for a lot more. Always lots of ways to think about how you're driving value out of something as large and complex as a smart city. Business drivers, same thing, right? We've got a number of business drivers in here. We've got a couple of stakeholders selected, and as we look at user stories, again, same thing. We've got citizen user stories, we've got city user stories, we've got app developer user stories. So we start to build out what this scenario really looks like, and then we go into our business canvas. You see we've got 3 customer segments, we've got lots of color coding going on here, and we can use our filtering to just look at the pieces that are relevant to certain elements that we are trying to view. So that is the summary of using all of the pieces in the define or the scenario setting area. Hope that gives you a good overview. Dive in, play around. You almost can't make a mistake because you can always duplicate things, try something new, and delete it if you're not happy with it. Just jump in, get going, get your brain transferred onto this paper, and go and have fun curating.